everybody, and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks from Indie Film Cafe. This is movies that we love and we love to share. I'm your host, Paul A Presenza, otherwise known as the Moo Cow, Moo, and I am joined by my usual co-host,
Jonathan Moody.
Outstanding. Hello, Jonathan. And tonight we are both joined by
Jackey Hall.
Yay! Welcome, Jackie.
Welcome to myself. Welcome, Jackie.
And for once, you actually get what I thought is a pretty darn good movie, as opposed to a pile of stink, which we usually subject you to. But you might have another opinion about that.
I think we are on different opposite worlds.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's funny. She felt the same about my movie I picked for her that I thought was a great movie. So
and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with different opinions, but I just want to let everybody know the movie we are talking about is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I can't say that this is one of my favorite movies. This is not a movie that I watch over and over and over. This is a movie I might watch every 7 or 8 years, and usually I'll usually do it when I'm introducing it to somebody who's never seen it, because I happen to think that it is very, very dark and very, very I don't know. It's not a very fun movie. I think it's a very good movie. I think it made slashers. It helps transition slashers from sort of the ridiculousness that was happening in the middle '80s, when it was just, all the crazy weird Jason shit goes to, outer space and all that kind of crap, before Silence of the Lambs. So this is kind of, the transition between the two. Sorry?
Silence of the Lambs used to fuck me up.
Oh yeah.
That
And to me, this is a movie that sort of did that before Silence of the Lambs did it. And it's sort of what makes it creepy to me is because this is like a sort of day in the life of what a real serial killer might do. You don't watch them killing, which tends to be the focus of most of those movies. In fact, you're basically seeing the aftermath and before. So you're seeing everything except the killing in most
of it. There are sometimes it does go into the actual killing.
And when it does, it makes it even more shocking. That whole part where you're watching the home video, and then that kid comes in. Oh my God, that was awful. That was just so horrific. But to me, I find this to be a very, very disturbing film. And
I found it. Okay, I'm like, Jonathan knows, like, I watch true crime all the time. This shit was just too real. It showed too much for me.
Oh yeah, and it's based on the serial killer Henry Lee Lucas.
Yep.
And a lot of the stuff that happened to him, and Otis, and a lot of that stuff that happened to him happens in this film, and it's a very interesting thing. So the director is John McNaughton. Okay, before he made this film, John McNaughton was making a series of documentaries on various things, and as a matter of fact, he had gotten hired by a group to do a documentary on wrestling, of all things. And for whatever reason, he started to make the movie, and it fell through. Either they couldn't get the people they wanted to get, or something happened, and the company who hired him was sitting on this money, and they said, well, why don't we just go ahead and make, a horror movie, try to recoup our money back, and we'll do this documentary another time. So they asked him, they said, can you make a horror movie? And he said, sure, because he had been doing all kinds of research into real life murders and serial killers. So he decided to make this one, because he's also one of the writers, based again on Henry Lee Lucas. And boy, howdy, he did it. And he did it with a minimal cast. There's really only 3 main characters throughout this whole movie, other than a few people that kind of float in and out. And it's Michael Rooker, Tom Towles, and
I think he's Tolles,
Tracy Thorn.
if I'm correct. I have a story about that, by the way. So I met him at Blood at the Beach, and I called him Tom Towles, and he looked at me and he goes, "It's Tolles," and I was like, "Good God, all right, I will never make that mistake again." So he's no longer with us, sadly. But
no, unfortunately.
But he.
Well, then don't tell mean stories about him if he's.
I'm not mean. That's not mean.
I'm just kidding.
It scared me. If anything, it was a funny story.
Well, at least you didn't call him Towley.
Yeah.
He probably would have killed you.
Yeah, I probably would have. But I think what you were saying. So they were making a wrestling movie. What wrestling?
Yeah, they were doing a documentary on wrestling. I don't know much about the details about that, other than for whatever reason it fell through, and the company had this money that they needed to spend because they needed to have a picture, and they decided to go the horror route. And that's when they presented it to to John McNaughton, who was more than happy to change and do that, and that's what he ended up doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, and not only that, when this movie first came out, it got the dreaded X rating.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it disturbed a lot of people.
I read that.
Yeah, and
it said it wouldn't give it anything below an X.
Mm-hmm. And much of it has to do with, depending on the version you get, the version where you get to see the different bodies, sort of the little montage, and there's one with a broken Coke bottle shoved down their throat.
Yeah.
It's really nasty.
Which Tubi, I think, has the unrated version or something, because it was pretty, it was rough. It was not a, like, it was scary. Like in the.
It is
like disturbing, as you said.
Movie.
So I agree, 100%. I didn't like it. I didn't like it either. By the way, I want to preface that by saying that, but I didn't like it, and I'll get into why later. But
I like it. I respect it, but I don't love this movie. It is not a place I want to inhibit or live in for very, very long. And usually, like I say, it's to just introduce other horror lovers to that too. And I always talk about how, like the Jason movies and all that other stuff, Michael Myers, they got pretty silly and weird as time went on, as they got stepped away further and further from their original source material and just got weird. And this movie sort of brought slashers back into the darkness, so to speak.
It definitely felt like a slasher, which I know, Jackie, you're not a huge fan of slasher films, but you like true crime. And so we've had that discussion. I think that's what brought this idea of doing this episode, is because you like true crime, but you don't like horror, and there is a big difference. If you watch a true crime documentary, they're usually just talking heads, and maybe a little reenactment, but usually it's just people talking about the stuff that happened, interviews.
Right. And usually slashers are where you're focused on the killing. And in fact, it's almost always they're trying to re-up themselves by doing something weird and some crazy death scene. And they try to, the next one is going to be something even more crazy. Mm-hmm. This movie does not do that at all. You almost never see any of the death scenes, but boy howdy, you see the results and you see stuff beforehand. And what's worse is the way Michael Rooker acts in his character. He just does not give a shit. He is completely without any kind of emotion, without any kind of caring for anyone. Even the one person in the entire world who actually has some feelings for him and gives him a break. And you see where it ends up. It's just chilling.
There's actually like a huge psychological effect behind why people like to watch true crime but not slasher movies, and it's because true crime is real, and we're just naturally curious as to see someone that would commit such horrible crimes and do such things, bad things to other people. We want to see what that looks like as a person, in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who watches slashers, it's fantasy. It's not real. So
it's usually masks or somebody who's, over the top or crazy.
Or somebody come back from hell and he's a ghost, or whatever. Right. And shit. So it's not based on real shit. But see, I think that's the biggest problem with this movie in a way, is because it felt real and, and everything. But it also was a slasher, you know? So it was like, it like almost didn't know where it was, you know.
I was a little confused with it. I mean, obviously the special effects were horrible, but I mean,
that's the 80s for you.
Yeah, but I mean, they had $110,000 to make this movie with.
That's a lot. That was a lot back in the 80s.
That's a lot of money back then. But they're saying the reason why they didn't do the wrestling movie, and I think Paul mentioned this, is because it was going to cost more than 110. So they wouldn't sign off on it. So they signed on to this project.
Mm-hmm. So this one would cost that much as like probably bare bones, you know. Like I bet
wonder
if they
how
had
much
more
it made
money.
at box office. I'm about to look.
It made it pretty good, as I recall, but I think it's grown in status, and it's more of a cult movie at this point.
Oh, it has a cult following.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Kind of like it reminded me. I just watched Clockwork Orange again, and there was a lot of things with that, and that also got an X rating. And there was a lot of like the rape stuff and things that were just pretty disturbing. You know,
the other thing I want to throw out there is that this was also happening as a matter of context. This was also when the Green River killings were going on up in the Seattle area too.
I know all about that.
And man, they were finding bodies all over the place, and it was a really, really bad scene. So this movie touched a nerve in a big, big way.
Yeah, I don't want to misquote myself, so I'll look it up. But I think the Green River Killer killed over 30, possibly 40 something people.
Oh yeah, that we know of.
That we know of, yeah.
Probably more than that.
I'm gonna look it up because I just keep true crime on my TV all day long. There's something wrong with me, so I get all my numbers mixed up.
Well, I mean, and Henry apparently said he had killed over 600 people or so. And the interesting thing about that is I think that was like basically the basis for the story, right? You know?
Well, Henry Lee Lucas was also a known liar.
Pathological liar.
Yeah, he lied about stuff. And they bring that out in the film too, because remember when Otis is telling his sister about Henry's like, oh, he killed his mother. He's stabbed her, or he says he stabbed her, and then he says that he shot her, she catches him in a lie.
Well, actually, originally he told Otis that he hit baseball bat, and then he said. Then he told her that he stabbed her, and then later he reneged it and said, "I shot her." And then she was like, "Didn't you say you stabbed her?" So then, so it does show he doesn't even know his own lies. He can't. But it's a wonder because he actually did murder his mother. So, okay, so you have to tell me this, Paul. So this movie gets a lot of things different than the real Henry Lee Lucas. However, in the movie, did you ever notice they never actually call him Henry Lee Lucas? I don't believe. Right. They never call him by his name. They just say Henry. They just say Otis. They just say Becky, which was not even her real name. I think his real name was like Freda or something. And so,
and she was 12 years old. And of course, they can't show that.
Right. They can't show that.
And with the names was probably a budget problem. Yes or no?
Probably. Maybe.
They used the full names. I'm saying that would probably have been a budget problem.
Yeah, they would have had to get the rights to his life story and stuff.
And I don't know that they wanted to open up that can of worms back in 1985, 86 by actually making a movie based on what really happened.
It would be interesting to actually know, too, because I was reading that, the movie was actually made in 85, but it took 2 years to get it a production company to pick it up because of the content.
Oh yeah. This was a bit of a hot potato because again, slashers at that time were not like this. It was really more almost comedic at that point.
Nightmare on Elm Street and all that stuff. Just
very kind of different handling of the situation then.
It's so weird to me to like wrap my brain around like where we're at today, like 2022, and like I mean I was born in the late 80s and like it doesn't seem that far ago and like that long ago, you know what I'm saying? It's like
and it's
like all of this stuff has been going on for like ever, but it's like the media and movies are like years behind what's actually like happening. It's just weird for me to like wrap my brain around that, like those types of things that were happening today were happening back then.
Oh yeah, and in fact, they call the 50s up into the beginning of the 80s the quote unquote golden age of the serial killer, because this is all pre-internet, and even to a certain extent, before television, you talked about a lot of
DNA
stuff.
problems,
right? DNA and all that. So these were people who were able to operate anonymously for years, and one of the things he brings out in that is the fact that you don't stick around a place. You go to an area, you hunt it for a while, then you leave, you keep moving. And that's what some of these old time serial killers would do, and they could just get away with all kinds of shit. Green River Killer, I think he ended up with at least over 100 confirmed kills that I know of. Probably more.
Actually, I'm looking it up right now. I was just looking it up. It says he claimed it. He killed as many as 80 women. Although he pled guilty in 2003 to only 48 murders.
Mm-hmm. Jesus, so still a lot of murders.
I mean, if you plead guilty to 48, there's okay. Like if it's like a triple homicide and someone that pleads guilty to like one, then there's got to be so many more people he murdered out there. And this is what is so crazy to me too, is like our science and everything is so far behind where it should be. It's like we have to have serial killers going on today, right now,
do. I mean, you just look at
we have all these cold cases we can't figure out. I mean, look at the Tiger King. They can't even figure out that woman fed her husband to a damn tiger. Like,
yeah, you look at statistics of females murdered on Native American reservations, where regular law enforcement and FBI is not allowed to go in there unless they've been invited. All kinds of shit goes on, and they don't even have statistics. They don't even have any numbers for that. And it's really awful. There was a really, really good documentary about that going on in Native American reservations and such. I forget the name of it, but if you find it on Netflix or Tubi, you should check it out. It's chilling, but it's a good one. And then on Netflix, there's also that series Mindhunter, where it sort of talks about
I know of it. I haven't seen
the creation of the FBI and their serial killer database and all that, and the Behavioral Institute and all that. It's really, really good. So if you're into this sort of thing, I would suggest that this is definitely a kind of movie that you should see, because again, it takes it from the fantasy and grinds it into dark, gritty reality.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Hollywood likes to sort of take that sort of stereotype and sort of turn him into this mastermind criminal he can get away with because he's so smart. And it just shows you Henry, he's no mastermind. He just knows enough, enough to get by, enough to just kill someone and leave, and enough to just get out of an area after a while, and that's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, back then it had to have been so easy, honestly. Like it had to be so easy.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jonathan. I'll let you go, and then I'll tell.
No, you go.
There's a documentary that came out. I believe it's on Hulu. So one of the most famous known serial killers that quote unquote has never been solved is who? Do you know? The Zodiac Killer.
Oh, Zodiac Killer, yeah.
Okay, there is a guy who has pretty much figured out that the Zodiac Killer was his father. And they go through and they go down the line all the way down to, they didn't have a full thumbprint of the Zodiac Killer, but they had like half of a thumbprint of his, and him and his dad both have the exact same scar on the exact same thumb, like on the fingerprint part. Like it goes like all the way down into detail and down to times and all of this. Wow. And he called a police station and they told him, oh, we figured out who the Zodiac killer was years ago. But they straight up lied. It's like it's either someone in the like the force doesn't want to get caught because they were in on it, or they don't want to look dumb, like they can't do their job.
I think it's the second thing. I think they don't want to look dumb. That's another thing is that early on, especially, serial killers took advantage of the fact that there was a lot of jurisdictional fighting going on between local police department, state police department, federal, investigators, the FBI, all different kinds, sometimes Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It all kind of depended on who was claiming it. And, one institution would try to take things away and then other ones wouldn't share information. And there was a lot of institutional fighting for a long time. And it's only been recently that some of that has stopped. I still think probably there's enough going on even today where they're still fighting over shit, but that's always been a serious problem.
Oh yeah, well, it's also been a serious problem too with them convicting the wrong people, like that Jason Avery guy, like totally planted, like, and they knew like he came from a very like his like dirt, like they had dirt as a floor, like not educated type family, and the cops knew that they could just frame him. Mm-hmm. There's people, we literally are taking up space in our jail for people that literally have done no crimes.
And then a lot of times too, especially early on, the victims tended to be the sorts of people that society didn't particularly care about. They were drifters, homeless people, prostitutes, things of that nature. So a lot of times people were like, we won't put as much effort into solving them because they're not considered
they're less than
true citizen. Right, they're less than, which is total freaking bullshit.
Well, hey, so this actually makes me wonder about why you even like this movie, Paul, because you hate movies where like innocent people get killed, get murdered and everything.
Well, I do. And that ending hits me, punches me in the gut every single time.
With the Tracy suitcase
character. Yeah. Every single time. But it is so well done that like I said, I respect it. I like it. I do not love it. I do not watch it often.
You do not want no more of it.
Yeah. So I probably won't see this again for another 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. But
or never.
I still felt like I wanted to talk about it. It's still a really good film, and it does what it needs to do.
As much as I was not a fan of it, as far as like, I really didn't like, and you guys explained this to me, that I wasn't a fan of the idea of like changing the names and everything. And that was a rights issue. So I didn't really think about that when I was watching it. So that kind of actually made me feel a little better, because when I was watching, I was like, this isn't right. This isn't Henry's life. This is like, like all the stuff I read about Henry, none of it was, it was all backwards or messed up or changed around. And a lot of that was because of the rights of his name and his life story.
Well, yeah. It said, look up the movie. It's loosely based off of it.
Right. Well, and so, so it kind of frustrated me when I'm like, wait a minute, she wasn't his sister. She wasn't, at over the age of 18. She wasn't, you know what I mean? But there was like so much they couldn't do, in this movie or whatever. Right. But aside from that, this movie just it's a movie I don't think honestly I'd watch again unless like somebody literally wanted, like you said, like somebody wanted to watch it and hadn't seen it. But
like Kate Phoenix, maybe.
No, I'm not going to watch this for the extreme horror thing. We're not revisiting.
Well, this doesn't really fit in the extreme horror. I mean, it's bad. It's grody. It's gritty, but it's not extreme. That's one of the things that I like about it, is it doesn't go in that direction. It doesn't do like huge gore effects and splatter, and it's not torture porn or anything like that.
Right.
I also like the fact that he sucks in Otis into this, and obviously Otis is a piece of shit anyway, waiting to happen. So he's using him, and they kind of sort of bond over killing people. But he's kind of schooling him, and he's saying things like, "Don't just use your gun over and over and over, because that's how they'll tie you to all these murders. You know, you have to do it different ways: strangle one, stab another. You know, because that's how they build their
Clues.
Patterns."
Yeah.
You know? So he's just clever enough to be able to slip past that. You know what I mean? That's all you need.
That's so messed up.
It's frightening.
Yeah, especially when like a serial killer starts to become thinking like that, you know, like they become methodical of like, you know what, I'm a serial killer, but I don't want people to know I'm a serial killer. So I'm just going to kill all these random people. Just look like it's a bunch of random killings. And then, you know, later, if I ever get caught, I can say I murdered over 600 people. I did look it up, and apparently Henry Lee Lucas's like ex-wife or something, like, I don't know, ex-lover, whatever she was, had actually claimed that there was no way that he could have actually murdered as many people as he said he could when they were together, just because of the way, you know, where he was at times or whatever. He just, so, you know, obviously you said he's a pathological liar. So he probably only murdered 3, but maybe more, you know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Paul,
yes.
Answer this for me, because I mean, I'm just confused with serial killer stuff right now. But the Green River Killer, there is what do you remember what his real name was?
No, I'm afraid not.
I just looked it up. Hold on. His
Gary
name
something?
was, oh God, Gary Ridgway.
Yeah, Ridgway, that's it.
Okay, I think there is a documentary on Netflix. I think it's him. He was arrested, caught for serial killing, but then he started working with the cops, and he started lying about these murders. Like, at first he was actually taking them to places that he actually did bury and murdered people, and they were finding stuff. But then he started leading them to places that they were finding nothing. So then they would like take him, you know, into the interview room at the jailhouse and say, "Oh, did you murder this woman? Let's say her name is Jan Beth." And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember her. Like, she was this and this, and this is how I killed her." And it would all be like the cops would make it up to see if he was lying about it.
Right.
Is that the same one?
Yeah, and that they found out that, you know, a lot of them love the attention. Yeah. They'll just inflate their numbers because it gets them out of prison, it gets them notoriety, you know, it gets them.
Oh, they're actually doing something good in society now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's, you know, so you have to be really, really, really careful. The whole psychology behind serial killing is a very, very dark and complicated place, and you have to sort of really want to be there if you want to get in there and not get you know, pretty darn depressed. But you know, it's just there's some really chilling scenes in that film. The thing that always gets me is that home invasion one where I mean, it's bad enough that they got the guy tied up, he's like kicking him and ends up stabbing him and raping the woman, but then when the kid comes in that he wasn't expecting and he has to kill that, I guess it's like a teenage kid, and that's the sort of thing that probably would have happened a lot of times to a number of different serial killers, collateral damage, because usually they stalk a victim, but they usually don't go for anyone who, you know, for someone like a family, they usually go for a single person. But every now and again, especially with Henry Lee Lucas, since he had his buddy Otis, they would go to groups. And, you know, it tends to be rare when serial killers hit anyone more than a single person. But he did do that, and they showed that. And that's the thing, is when you have families, you can't account for everybody, and you never know when someone's going to pop home, unfortunately.
I say to any criminal out there, if you're going to do a crime, fucking do it on your own. If someone else is involved, y'all are going to get fucking caught, because someone's going to fuck up.
And that's a lot of what happened too, of what, like, you know, as you mentioned earlier, that freaking was it Henry had to explain things to Otis to like make sure that they didn't get caught doing this shit, because he's bringing in a guy who at first wasn't going to be doing this stuff, and then all of a sudden he's thrust into this world where he's doing it all the time, and
but the thing is,
he's enjoying it. He loves it.
You knew it was only a matter of time, because he's not nearly as clever as Henry is. Plus, he's sort of getting hooked on it in the wrong way. He's the one who starts videotaping it, and he's watching it over and over and over. And to someone like Henry, that's fucking evidence. You see, like the part where he falls asleep, he takes that tape because he's going to destroy it, because he doesn't want that around. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He started up.
There's always a stupid one in the bunch. So, I mean,
yeah.
If you're gonna do a crime, like I said, do it on your own. Not that I would know.
Just a matter of time when Otis was gonna go, and of course, Otis proves what a piece of shit he is, with raping his sister, and of course before that even.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I mean, just despicable characters, and then the one nice, bright, shining person, the beating heart of the movie, was Becky, and it's just such a sin what happens. It's just the movie kind of sets you up a little bit. At first, when they kill the one guy for the TV, he's kind of acting like a jerk, and some people might think, oh well, that guy deserved it, and there might be a couple people where you might think that. Otis probably deserved it, but certainly she did not.
Okay,
at all. And then she gets it anyway.
So there's a couple of things I have to say about that. So once again, I mentioned earlier that I know Paul hates that, where people who are innocent victims die in these movies, where they, like he would rather the people who are kind of douchebags or
slashers.
And slashers. And this is a slasher, so it works. So in the beginning, like, where you have the death of the the two girls that they're with in the car, they don't deserve to get killed, or whatever. And then the TV guy didn't necessarily deserve to die. He might, but when I was watching, I was like, oh God, just be nice to these guys, because they don't. But see, that's the thing. Like that's sort of where the movie.
You never know,
right?
And that's the thing with these people. Just like the guy he buys the cigarettes from, he's all, fuck the Bears. How many of you guys thought, oh God, he's next? And then he finds the old lady walking the dog.
Oh my God, no! I was gonna turn the movie off right then and there and not even finish it if something bad had happened to the dog that we saw.
Yeah, Jonathan can't watch anything that.
Nope. I was like, don't bring a dog in this movie, you fuckers. Don't do it.
You know what's sad about that? You know what's so literally like sad about that? And I think we're just kind of programmed in the world, and we need to deprogram ourselves a little bit from it, is that we don't give a fuck about watching other people die. You hear people stand up and clap and scream and yell in slasher movies, yeah, die, bitch, die. But if they were stabbing a dog or an animal, they're out.
I think it's got to be the innocence thing of, like, a dog is a pure innocence. Like, that dog does not, is not harming anyone at all. Now, if the dog were attacking somebody and the person, had to survive, you know what I mean? I would get it, but
you're right. And usually the way it works, at least for the early slashers, it was all teenagers having sex, and that was always like the sort of, this is what you get for having sex as a teenager. You get murdered by Michael Myers, you get murdered by Freddy, you get murdered by whatever. And then it just kind of went off. When, of course, in reality, you don't deserve it. There's no deserving. It has nothing to do with it. It's completely random. It's being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Something we cannot control. And that's what makes it chilling. You have no idea. We could be passing by a serial killer every day and never know it.
Your neighbor could be one.
Yeah.
He probably is.
So funny. I've heard of so many people, and then like even myself, like I've had long-term relationships where I've lived with my boyfriends for over 4 years, and at the end of the relationship you go, I never actually knew who that person was, like at all. And then so it's like, if you can't figure out who someone is that you live with, that's in your house, how are you supposed to figure out how everyone else is around you?
Are you saying you couldn't figure out how I was, period? You know, because I was in your house.
Jonathan, there's probably a lot of shit I'm glad I don't know about you.
Probably. Same here.
But I've known you for what, 10 plus years now. Yeah. I know your spirit. But you're still a human, and you probably do some weird shit I don't want to know about.
Yeah,
but
don't tell her about the peanut butter and the iguana. Just don't go
Oh there. My God. Peanut butter and iguanas.
I was thinking of the chicken, but all right.
That's a podcast on its own. A fucking chicken.
But
yes, that's gonna hurt.
Since we kind of went there, they do bring up the fact that Henry, just like Henry Lee Lucas, was abused, did come from this horrible family background. His mother was extremely shitty, was a prostitute, used to bring up Johns and then make him watch and then humiliate him
by wearing a dress.
A dress. But the real Henry Lee Lucas got it even worse. I mean, they would just like throw feces on him. They would beat him. They would just do all kinds of nasty shit. So this is definitely one of those things where you've created a monster. Okay. And now he's loose and doing what he's doing because he's all fucked up. You notice like when she tries to get close to him, he wants nothing of it, wants nothing to do with it. Doesn't want to be touched, doesn't want to be kissed, doesn't want to be cuddled, has no idea how to react to that. It's like seeing a dog that has been abused all its life and doesn't want to be touched. You know what I mean? That's what it reminded me of.
Most of them, I've watched a bunch of the documentaries on serial killers talk, like Let Them Talk or whatever. And some of them are still just out there, like they're still just lying. And then you get some who actually start telling the truth and go into depth about like how they have no emotion, and they mostly all of them were abused growing up.
And it's interesting because, and you probably know about this, Jackie, but there is a difference between a psychopath and a sociopath.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get somebody who is both. And that's when it gets really, really bad. Because the thing about sociopaths is that they lack empathy. They do not understand empathy. Yeah. So that's why they start off things like killing animals and innocent things like that, because it means nothing to them. They get nothing from it. And in fact, a lot of them don't even get pleasure from what it is that they end up doing. They lack that capacity.
Yeah, like it's kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like sad because like in a way they're like at a very young age. I don't know if it's just like a genetic thing or if something they just switch off because they're living in such bad conditions. But it's like I kind of sort of in a way feel sorry for serial killers and stuff like that. I mean, because I know that sounds weird to fucking say, but it's like they didn't know that they were choosing at the time as a child that they were shutting themselves off like that.
Nobody wants to be turned into a monster.
No. And I'm not saying like that their actions are like forgivable or whatever. But I'm just saying from the get-go, like the explanation of like where it all starts, it's kind of sad.
So one of my friends' daughter is in college right now, and she was 20, she just started, but one of her big things is she wants to become I think it's called like a forensic psychologist or something.
Yeah.
But she wants to study what makes people become serial killers. so that she can go to broken homes and other places and help the kids kind of turn a different path before they get there. And I thought that was the sweetest thing I've ever heard. But I was like, if you find that out, because she wants to figure that out, that's her big thing. And I was like, if you figure that out, please tell me, and I'll put it into a movie because I want that. Because that's like I've been wanting that stuff too. Like
it should be mentioned that not everybody who experiences abuse as a child goes on to become a serial killer. It's just it's one of the factors.
Well, it's like not. It's everybody takes on pain in different forms. You know, we're all so different as humans. So, I mean, I might get abused physically and it not bother me at all. And then someone else, it might mentally just like break them down, you know?
Right.
So it's really hard to tell, but I love what Jonathan said about his friend, because if you do start catching that type of behavior at a very young age, you can actually reverse some of the stuff. I know for a fact, I've studied it, and there's people that I follow online who admit to being like narcissist. Like, and they have they are a narcissist, and they've been to therapy, and they're like, yeah, I'm a narcissist. Like, I have these tendencies, like this is what I would do to my wife, or blah, 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 blah. But through therapy, you know, they've been able to change.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. But unfortunately, not everybody can. But it's interesting because even in the movie, we're given parallel lines of just, if you look at the abuse angle, because Becky also talks about how she was abused. She suffered all kinds of abuse, but she turned out to be a loving, nice person who's very, very helpful. So again, we can't always use that as saying, okay, well, this explains that, because that's not necessary. It's just one of the factors, because he also exhibits the pathological lying, the narcissistic tendencies, the sociopathy. Henry's got pretty much all of it, with just enough cleverness that he's continues to get away and move on to the next place, and then the next place, and then the next place. And it is very, very sneaky and devious of the filmmakers to set it up in such a way where you begin to at least a little bit kind of, I don't want to say root for him at certain times, because, you know, he helps her out, you know, when he doesn't necessarily have to. He protects her, you know, fools her enough that she begins to think that he's a protector. When I initially thought it was like, okay, well, this is the line he's not going to cross. And of course he does. And so does every victim who ever sees that or who knows what's going on. They think they're the line that's never going to get crossed. And then of course they do. And that's tragedy.
It's so interesting, like psychologically, because, and like, I'm not going to go into a full spiel about my background, but I did have a very abusive childhood, and I turned out the complete opposite way. I'm not by no means a perfect fucking human. Nobody is. But now, you know, all I do is help people. I run a nonprofit and all of that, but I could easily see where it could go the other way, because another person involved in the same situation is like the complete opposite of me, and he's older than me. So it just depends. It really is. I don't know what in your brain picks without, like, subconsciously, without you noticing which way you're going to take it.
So
yeah, I think genetics has a certain factor in there. Your behavior that's been shaped as you've grown up has a lot to do with it. You know, there are a lot of factors that end up creating. You can't just create a monster either. But if the factors are there and you hit all the right buttons, boom! Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there, and you know, we live in a society where we kind of have a lot of throwaway people, and they are just easy victims.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do want to make a quick little comparison. There's a movie that I actually like, but I don't love. It wouldn't be a Film Fricks movie, but I like it a lot, which is Natural Born Killers, where I think that movie got inspired a little bit by this movie, especially with the whole idea of just going around, just killing whoever they feel like fucking killing at any time, or whatever, and trying to get away with it, and everything. And so I'm wondering if it was originally a Quentin Tarantino script. I wonder if Tarantino had kind of been inspired a little bit by this movie, because this movie has a little bit of that,
Possibly. I think those were the thrill killers from I think it was like early 60s. There was a couple. I forget their names. I can't remember anything at this point. But yeah, they were a young couple, and that was their thing. They were doing it for quote unquote for kicks. So they were kind of driving around randomly killing people because they were getting off on it. So totally different style, totally different pathology, but ends up having the same kind of results.
Right. Okay. No, I get that. Have you seen Natural Born Killers, Jackey?
Did you just ask me this? I feel like we were just talking about this yesterday.
No.
Okay, well, I know that name, so you've either...
I probably mentioned it before, but not...
Watched it when we were living together or something.
Probably something. Maybe. I might have checked it out then.
As a matter of fact, Ray Dennis Steckler made a movie about the thrill killers, and it's actually a pretty darn good film. Most people think that that's his actual best movie, so you should check that out sometime, Moody.
Wait, over Rat Finka Boo Boo?
Yes. No, it was a serious movie.
But people liked it better? Jesus.
What's the name of it?
No.
Rat Finka Boo Boo.
Rat Finka Boo Boo is a movie we have to show you at some point.
Oh,
you'll love it.
Jesus Christ.
It's Batman, the TV show on steroids.
You guys have really helped me with my prayer life, because I have to do a strong dear God, help me get through this movie and talk about it later. A good 40 minutes before I have to watch.
You would like Rat Finka Boo Boo. It is silly and wacky and a lot of fun.
Who even comes up with that name, a Rakafika Boo Boo?
Well, it was supposed to be Rat Fink and Boo Boo, but the guy at the who produced the thing blew the title.
Did you just say hoo at the Boo Boo?
Yeah, I did.
What the fuck?
But the title got blown, and he didn't have enough money to get it fixed, so he just left it.
Oh my God.
It's just funny that you said hoo at the Boo Boo.
Hoo at the Boo Boo.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
But anyway, if I'm going to deal with that kind of a subject, I'd rather it be sort of lighthearted and silly and all that. This sort of relentlessly dark and grim sort of approach is not something that I enjoy very often. Every now and again, but yeah, this is not a fun party movie.
Did you rewatch this, or did you or have you just seen it enough? Okay, I didn't know if you just rewatched it or if you because sometimes I'm sure you could probably, if you know a movie
it's been 7 or 8 years since I've seen it, so I had to rewatch it again just to sort of and there were a few things that I had remembered, but yeah, the ending, of course, is the one that always gets me, because it's just such a sin.
Well, it's sad, and
I have to watch with you guys. I have to watch it probably at least 3 or 4 times, because Jonathan knows how I watch movies.
Well, she watches it in pieces, it'll be like a little here and a little there and a little there, because she's got a million things to do, so
it's not even just that, but it's a learned behavior from my mom. I never saw my mom just sit down and relax and watch a movie. She's like, oh, there's a speck of dirt on the counter. Let me go do that.
Right. Well, I've actually seen you sit down and watch movies at the house.
If I'm really into it.
Yeah.
But that takes a lot.
Say Basket Case?
Remember that took her a couple times.
We never got your info or your input about Basket Case.
No, because I ended up in a crazy tornado of a car crash that thankfully I wasn't hurt, but other people were.
Thankfully you weren't hurt. But that's I'm sorry.
But it's easier to sort of push aside a movie like Basket Case, even though it's kind of similar, kind of gritty and gross. But that's a deformed demon brother, parasitic twin in a basket, versus Henry, who's just a regular schmuck that you could run into at any moment. You know?
Well, it's sort of a thing where, yeah, like once again, we have to like say that shit's real compared to like Basket Case, which might have had a little bit of, like the idea of the parasitic twin is a real thing, but the idea of a parasitic twin that's cut off and put into a basket is not real, could not happen. And the way, so I don't know. It's one of those things where it was.
I felt like the whatever the title of that movie was.
Basket Case.
So I did watch it. But I needed to watch it a couple more times. But I just sometimes with those movies, it's like, this is just a circus, and it just reminds me of real life right now with what a circus shit show we all live in right now. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Right. Well, the thing is, I think the reason why a lot of people don't like Henry is the reason they go to a movie like Basket Case and, all the other traditional slashers, is because we all know instinctively that that's not reality, and we want to get away from reality. We want to be entertained. And a movie like Henry, that's different. That's like being dragged back and forced into this can really happen, and people don't want to be reminded of that. They don't want that. They want to get away from reality. They don't want to have their noses rubbed in it, unfortunately.
God, that makes me, my brain processing is like so different. Like, if I'm going to be watching something or I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff. Everything that I watch or I listen to is about reality. Like, none of it is like fantasy stuff, like, at all.
True crime, probably, right?
A lot of true crime, but I listen to like a lot of psychology stuff and whatever else. But it's like, I feel like my brain is going to die if I watch too much fantasy shit.
That's understandable. You want more stuff that you can learn from, right?
It actually really helps like my anxiety to feel like I'm learning something.
Yeah, I totally get it. That's what I do on YouTube. I'll go out and I'll a lot of times I want to learn more about whatever's going on there. So I'll go to YouTube and I'll just start checking out videos that I learn shit from,
Well, that's kind of why I just kind of assumed that you would like this better than Basket Case, but I guess not.
I think you did like Basket Case a little better than this movie, Jackey.
Yeah. I remember at one point watching this last movie, and I was just like, I can't. It was something with the scenes, and I don't know. I just couldn't.
Well, also, as we said before, like, it's real, but like most of those times you don't see the violence and stuff, like the nastiness in those documentaries and stuff.
No.
When you're seeing it for real, I think there's a little bit of a difference,
Yeah, it was like me actually watching it happen, which I don't think I can psychologically deal with that shit right now.
Like that camcorder scene that Paul was talking about. Like, that's the worst scene in the movie.
That was the scene that fucked me up.
It is. And the thing is, it's very effectively done because everything else you see other than the later on with the rape scene is something that you're seeing the aftermath of. Okay. And if you notice too, in a number of parts of the movies, he put in these really kind of strange sound effects. And it turns out he was taking things like whining dogs and doing weird things with the sound to sort of like make you feel very, very unsettled. So you were feeling, at least I was feeling very unsettled throughout the whole movie, even though we were seeing the end results of the violence and not the violence itself, which is typically what you do in the slasher. So it ended up making that one scene especially stand out, in my opinion. It made it feel worse.
I'm not gonna lie. I had to pop a couple of Xanax, not just one.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was pretty hard. It was a hard past week, guys. I literally saw people knocked out in real life, covered in blood from a car accident, to watching this shit.
I mean, I wouldn't have even suggested this other than the fact that I know you said you love true crime. So I figure, okay, here's one that's
it's not your fault. You were trying on your side. You were trying to be thoughtful. I appreciate that.
And hey, look, there is a scene that we forgot to sort of mention. Maybe we did, but the scene where the guy is or whatever, they pretend to have their car broken down, so that they flag the guy down. And I was just thinking, I'm not going to help anybody anymore, after this. God damn, that scared me.
I literally passed someone on the road 2 nights ago. Younger dude, I guess his car broke down and he was literally like, I guess, out of gas or whatever. And I'm just like, nope, can't do it.
Nope.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my NASA interns told me that she stopped once for somebody and got a very creepy vibe off of him and then left. And then she said he followed her all over town for like half the day before she drove back to my place. And finally, I guess the guy drove away. And I was like, yeah, you got to be really, really careful, especially single females by themselves.
Oh, there's no way that I would even drive for Uber or Lyft. Being a small female.
I had an Uber driver that actually told me, and this was in LA when I was coming back home after I came back to visit from Virginia and everything. I came back home and I was going to go see, I was going to go back to the house. And so I was coming from LAX and had to get an Uber. The Uber driver actually told me that he picked up a serial killer once.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a killer, like a killer. I don't know if he was a serial killer, probably a killer, but a guy who murdered somebody. And I was like, how did that conversation happen, in the Uber? And he was like, he was just asking him, asking him about himself. And he told him he just got out of jail for, murder 10 years ago or whatever, from a murder that happened 10 years ago and stuff. And I'm like, I would have just not continue.
Do you have to legally tell someone that? You have to legally tell someone you have AIDS? It's do you have to legally, before you get into an Uber, be like,
probably not.
Murdered someone?
That's probably the best to not tell people that.
There's another thing about this film that's a whole rabbit hole that I decided not to chase into, but apparently there's a connection between John McNaughton, this film, and Werner Herzog. That because Werner Herzog ended up making a dark serial killer movie called Strotsky, I think is what it's called. It's a Polish Russian guy, and it's also around the same period. It's also very, very dark and gritty and nasty. But apparently they co-fabbed in something somewhere along the line. I don't know the whole story. I haven't chased it down. But yeah, so there's a lot going on with this film. I also know that you can go on the Criterion channel, and this was on there, even though Criterion does not put it out. Arrow put out the Blu-ray for this, and apparently there's also a special 40th anniversary or 30th anniversary, whatever the thing is for it, and
30th.
All kinds of extras are on there and everything.
So wow, do you have the Blu-ray or no?
I do not. I had the VHS for a long time. I don't even have the DVD, but I'm gonna get the Blu-ray at some point.
So did you watch it on Tubi?
Yeah, I did. Okay. It's just like I said, this is not a movie that I happily pop in and just watch. You know what I mean? It's just not that kind of a movie for me.
This isn't the movie you watch every week and you're just like, I need this movie in my life every day of my life. It's sort of a fucked up movie, very fucked up movie. And I don't know, as much as it's not something I really want to watch. And as you said before, it not for this movie, but that movies like this make you want to have cold showers and shit after watching it, because it just leaves you with this nice feeling that there's people out there that just do shit like this,
right,
and like
and that means the movie was very, very effectively made. I mean, the acting is fabulous. Everything about the movie was really, really well done. I mean, Michael Rooker, what a performance. Come on.
He was the nicest guy to me, honestly. I loved him in the conventions and stuff. He's funny,
Isn't he a wrestler?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, he's so this is his this is his like sort of the movie that kind of made him an icon.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I mean, I only know that, but like it's so funny because the first time I ever heard of this movie was on the commentary for Mallrats, because Michael Rooker's in it. And they're like, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer's Michael Rooker, right? That's how they were like describing him. And I was like, what is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer? And I did not watch it until recently. This is my first watch. So
you want to know? Sorry, finish your sentence.
No, go ahead.
I think probably one of the coolest things that I have found out through all of my true crime stuff, and I only found this out a few months ago, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, is that there's one serial killer that is not known by name, famous, like it's not Ted Bundy. You know how they overdo Ted Bundy, who there's 7 very famous horror films based off of that one serial killer.
Are you talking about Ed Gein?
I told you that.
There you go.
No. I mean, I've known that for a while, because Psycho and Silence of the Lambs and
Texas
Chainsaw Massacre. There's a lot of fucking movies based around him.
Dude, he used to kill the women he would kill. Obviously, he would skin them and then like cover his furniture, like sew it all together with the skin. But something else very fucking weird that he did is he would cut the nipples off of any of his victims, and he hung them on strings like Christmas lights and hung them around the house.
He was also a corpse robber. He liked to dig up corpses if he couldn't kill someone, and he'd take their bits and pieces back too. Ugh. It's crazy.
The people, just Jesus Christ.
Even worse, look up.
Have anything else better to do with their fucking time?
Look up Albert Fish. That guy was even crazier.
Wait, that has to be one I haven't heard of yet.
What?
Oh yeah, Albert.
Oh my
Fish.
God, yeah.
And
how have I not heard of Albert Fish?
One of the worst. He ate this little girl and then wrote to his parents and said, "She was delicious. Do you have another one you can send me?" I know, that's horrible. It's like the most horrible thing. They went to electrocute him, and the electric chair thing malfunctioned because it turned out he would put iron needles into his groin, into his penis and balls. But he put in like hundreds of them. So it all shorted out. I mean, this guy is the craziest of all crazy.
Where is he getting these needles from in jail to stick up his ass?
I think he just did it over a period of time and left them there.
Yeah,
I mean, how do you just leave them there?
I don't know. But yeah, read up about Albert Fish.
There's so many questions.
You gotta look him up.
A scary rabbit hole that you'll love.
So scary looking.
Albert Fish. Dude, have you ever noticed that most of these serial killers look really ugly? Like, I mean, I hate to say it, like, sounds
not
terrible.
Ted Bundy. That's why he's so famous.
Yeah, but most of them are not very attractive people, or whatever.
Do you know what's even more fucking crazy? Is that the amount of women they get wanting to be with them when they're in prison. We have a fucked up society.
Yeah. And seriously, there are some who are married. There are some who completely have this other life that doesn't spill over into their family life. Who's the
John Wayne Gacy?
John Wayne Gacy, right?
The
His
clown
wife fucking lived with him while there was corpse of little boys being buried underneath their crawl space.
Or the Iceman, the guy who worked for the mob, who had his family, and he would just go out and just murder people. He tied one guy up and left him in a sewer, and rats like chewed their way through his skull, and then he recorded it.
I love how if you look up Albert Fish, by the way, his picture, one of his pictures is of him in the electric chair or whatever. So all I can think of right now is that it's about to short circuit, like from all the
I got stuff in my ass.
And his penis apparently too.
Yeah, that guy is just nuts.
Where did you get that picture at?
No, it just pops up like when you just look up Google. Look up Albert Fish, Google.
I did.
Well, if you ever come to visit, Jackie, I got a whole bunch of books and stuff about all these kinds of people. So.
Oh, I see the electric chair now. Are you talking about the one where they're like binding him down?
Oh yeah, I was sending it to you, but you'll get it anyway because I just sent it. But yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah.
But, it's so gross to think
I was watching one the other day, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he was like a cult leader, like convinced all these people he was one of Jesus's disciples.
Jim Jones?
No, it's not Jim Jones, but there's a ton of those cults stories. This guy killed people, serial killer, killed people, cooked it up into stew, and went out feeding the homeless people like he was doing something good.
Oh, dear.
Fed the human stew to the homeless.
Well,
he probably said, this is stew. This is stew.
I'm sure there's some stew in here somewhere.
And don't forget, there are occasional women too. Women tend to go after kids, or they can be poisoners. But every now and again, you get one as a slasher and a serial killer, like Mary Woronov. Monster is another movie that is really, really, really well done.
You mean Eileen?
Yeah.
You mean
Eileen? Sorry, yeah, not Mary.
Oh, Mary Woronov is an actual actress.
Yeah, I get those names mixed up. No, Eileen. That's a really good movie. It's another one that I don't watch very, very often because of the subject matter, but also could have been on Film Freaks.
She was a prostitute, right? Or
yes.
I think another one of the worst ones that I heard of was this guy was another cult leader, and nobody was allowed to leave their little camp or encampment or whatever. And if they tried to leave, like he would like cut off bits and parts of their bodies or whatever. Mm-hmm. So something happened and he like cut one of this dude's finger off or something. And then, oh no, he cut his nuts off. That's what it was.
Yeah, this was in California. I remember this guy.
And then he got an infection, and the guy was like just packing him, like, oh, I can heal you, whatever. Long story short, the guy ends up fucking dying. Mm-hmm. So in his head, he's going, oh my God, like I've told all these people that like I'm a disciple of Jesus and like I can raise the dead. And so he's like, I got to prove these people like I am what I am. So he takes the body, cuts half of the head off, and in front of the entire community there, fucks the brains and says that his sperm's going to bring the person back to life.
As you do.
Hey, did it work is the question.
Oh yeah, he was fine right after. He's like,
guy came back to life and was like, I feel great.
Larry
I see the Dustin Ferguson movie now. Sperm brain zombies.
Oh God. All right. Well, our show just went down the toilet. All right. Anyway. I think that's about it. Like, we've talked for over an hour already at this.
Yeah, so it's weird, this kind of broke my rule a little bit. I can't say that I love this movie. I do like it, I do respect it, but again, every now and again, I like to trot it out. I like to shine a little light on there, especially people who like true crime or people who like slashers. I figured this was a good thing. I figured you already had seen this, Moody, because this was pretty famous, and I knew you loved Michael Rooker.
I do love Michael Rooker, and it's a movie I've wanted to see. Well, nowadays it's really hard for me to just sit down and just watch something unless it's I'm reviewing it. But before then, even I don't know. I just never there wasn't Tubi back then, and there really wasn't these options where you could just go and find these. I mean, when I looked in a video store, I really wasn't looking for this, and stuff. And I'm glad I watched it. Like I said, it's not something I really want to watch again. I'm glad that I've seen it. And if anybody says, "Oh, do you remember that scene in Henry: A Portrait of the Serial Killer?" I could be like, "Yeah, fuck, I remember that scene," But
and this is the same guy that made Mad Dog and Glory and Wild Things.
Wild Things of all movies. This just doesn't even feel the same. Doesn't feel like the same director. No. Completely different movies.
It goes to show you how many different sides there are to people, especially creatively.
Yeah. And I do love Wild Things. I do love Mad Dog and Glory, and I love this movie. So John McNaughton, I mean, he's also listed in the horror Masters of Horror, show. He did he did a short or so of that on that. And back then I think I was a dick because I was like, what fucking horror movie did he do? We did Wild Things, right? Mad Dog and Glory. Well, Henry: The Portrait of the Serial Killer is probably more terrifying than like Friday the 13th or any of those other slashers that got those guys more famous.
He also did a number of episodes of Homicide: Life on the Streets, which, as you know, is my favorite cop TV show of all time.
Do you remember those episodes specifically?
Not off the top of my head, but I think he did like 5 or 6. And like I said, he also did a number of documentaries of true crime stuff. So, he does have a background in this sort of thing.
Yeah, and he loves it. So that's great, that he found his calling and he is able to do that. As I was saying, it's not something I really want to watch again. It makes me feel disturbing and fucked up, and I don't like it, necessarily like that. But once again, I am glad I saw it. And I'm sure Jackie's glad she saw it. But yeah, it's a movie that I'm sure it's hard for you to sit through, or whatever, because it's just so fucked up,
I'm glad it's done.
Yeah. Just like, I don't need to see that again. I saw it once.
Been there, done.
Now
next time, Jackie, next time I'll make sure you get a nice comedy. Okay.
Hey, I have no hard feelings toward you picking this out at all. Your intention was very good.
Thank you.
That's all it matters.
Yep. And what is it? All I gotta say is I enjoyed it, and I hope that everybody else out there that have seen this movie, let us know what you guys think. Did you guys find it disturbing? Did you find it fucked up? Did you agree with us for a lot of this stuff? Did you not?
Did you think about shoving iron up your ass so you don't get electrocuted?
Are you gonna be like Jackie and go find documentaries on Albert Fish now?
Oh God, I can't. I'm done for like a couple of days. I can't right now.
There you go. I'll send you some nice Frenchie videos.
What do you mean? I have them right here. I don't need
Yay.
She doesn't need any more videos. She makes her own.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and please join us next time for the next episode of Film Freaks, when it'll be Mr. Moody's turn, and we will see you on the flip side.
And Jackie will be back for that episode, so stay tuned.
Oh, yay!
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.